right? Good morning to all of the folks who are gathered here today. I'm appreciative of your turnout, and I'm appreciative of the media's attention. This is Holy Week, and we thought it appropriate to reflect upon the fact that many families will be celebrating a tradition, and that is a commitment to one's faith, but more importantly, a commitment to one's appreciation for liberty, safety, and peace. But that is in harsh contrast to the continuing problems that we face in Philadelphia, and that is, unfortunately, gun violence, and specifically homicides as a result of gun violence. And it'd be inappropriate and unfair for us to not reflect in the midst of a budget discussion at the local and state level that issues that plague our community require some level of commitment between community and law enforcement. And in particular, those of us who have responsibilities to provide a perspective when it comes to what a budget should look like. And so I'm appreciative that we have a commitment and a coalition of participants here today who are going to talk about their concern and their commitment towards that solution of reducing gun violence in the Philadelphia community. Specifically, at the state level, and that's the area that I'm going to talk about a little bit today, we have a budget that does do certain things as regards to reducing gun violence. We're particularly appreciative of the governor's commitment towards spending money for state police, IDing, protecting, the criminal history database, automatic fingerprinting identification system. But we also note that one particular area, the gun task force, which started in 2006, remains at a stagnant level of about $3.5 million. And so while we recognize that the reduction from a $5 million high has been reduced to $3.5 million preceded this administration, it should be recognized that there's a necessity to increase it back to at least a minimum of $5 million. The tools that we will be elaborated upon today, those tools which we're committed to, those tools which are used, those tools which are illustrated graphically of removing illegal guns from the streets of Philadelphia, not only protect the citizens, but they protect police officers, they protect business owners, they protect tourists, and they provide a perspective that Philadelphia is indeed a place that one will want to not only visit, but to live in. And so we would hope that today, as I briefly talk about and mention the gun task force, others will talk about the gun task force and a variety of other areas that we want to talk about that we think would add to the protection and the reduction of the violence that we've seen in the streets of Philadelphia. I am joined by a number of presenters today, and they will follow in this order. Police Commissioner Charles Ramsey, our District Attorney, R. Seth Williams, the Deputy Police Commissioner, Richard Ross, Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, and Max Nachman, Executive Director of Ceasefire PA, and a host of community groups who are with us. And they will share their perspective on not only the gun task force, but what we need to do to reduce the level of gun violence in Philadelphia County. Commissioner.
Thank you, Senator, and I want to thank you for bringing all of us together here this morning to talk about a very important issue. Nobody here is surprised by the fact that gun violence continues to plague our city. It's an unfortunate fact. It's been with us all too long. And unfortunately, this year so far, the number of assaults being committed using a handgun has increased. The number of robberies committed using a gun has increased. The number of guns that we have seized off the streets of our city has increased as well, almost 900 so far this year alone, and this is only April 5th. This continues to be a huge problem. We need all the support and all the resources we can possibly muster. The gun task force has been an asset in our fight against illegal guns on the streets of our city, and we need that to continue. So I'm here in full support of this effort. You can see from the display here some of the weapons that have been seized off the streets of our city. Most of these weapons were actually seized by the gun task force working along with our various detective divisions. Just to give you an example of the kinds of weapons the men and women of our department face each and every day, and weapons that are used to commit crime on the streets of our city each and every day. So as a department, We certainly do support this effort. We do need the funding. We do need the task force to continue, and we'll do everything possible to continue to work together to reduce the amount of violence that takes place on the streets of our city. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. I am very thankful to be here with the police commissioner, with the deputy mayor, with the state senator, and with, of course, members of the community to talk about the need, of course, to reduce the gun violence. Now, nationwide, we have seen a decrease in crime. We've seen a decrease in violent crime. In Philadelphia, we have seen a decrease in crime. I'd like to thank the police commissioner and the police department for their hard work. Yet we have not seen the same rate of a decrease in violent crime. And in Philadelphia, our homicide rate is about the same. And that's not acceptable. There are too many street corners. I say this everywhere I go. There are too many street corners in Philadelphia littered with teddy bears and balloons and candles for young lives that have been lost to senseless violence. On my way here for this press conference, my favorite radio station, a sports radio station, there's a character named Chip Snapper, and he said that they were going to, instead of the normal Quaker tradition of a moment of silence, in Philadelphia, we should have a moment of violence. And it's sad that this type of, it's seen as humor. But the loss of lives in young people is a very serious thing. So I'd like to thank the senator for convening us, and would like to ask all the lawmakers in Harrisburg to do all that they can to ensure that the funding levels for the Gun Violence Task Force and the funding levels for witness protection programs are not decreased. Because I understand when things happen in Harrisburg, in the debates and there's wheeling and dealing, the low level that we have now could be cut even more. So we have to ensure that the money, the funding for the Gun Violence Task Force, for witness protection is not eliminated. Of course, I would want more money for everything. I wanted to hit the Powerball last week, Mega Millions, didn't do it. All of us in government are doing as much as we can with as little that we do have. And we're doing a great job as a result of improving our own internal communication and making more with less. But yes, I would hope that we could have more police on the street. I would hope that we could have more assistant district attorneys. I would hope that we could have more funding for community organizations like Mother in Charge, so they could be out there helping the victims of homicide violence. But the Gun Violence Task Force has been a tremendous success. I would like to thank the governor, I'd like to thank the Attorney General, and I'd like to thank the police commissioners. Our partnership with the Attorney General's office and the police department and the district attorney's office, that is the Gun Violence Task Force. Since its inception in 2006, as the state senator mentioned, through the end of 2011, we've arrested about 860 individuals, primarily straw purchasers. We've taken off the streets about 2,591 handguns and automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons, as you see here. Only in 2011, there were 123 arrests and 462 guns were recovered. But that's not enough. And I would like to thank the police commissioner and the attorney general. Recently, we have changed our MOU, our operational agreement. And so recently, we've changed. And the police and the attorney general's agents that are assigned to us will also, in addition to just investigating straw purchases, when people who lawfully can possess and buy guns do that and then sell them to people that can't, we're going to be investigating non-fatal shootings with these agents and with the police, so that we can do more to go after people that are profiting off of the bloodshed in our city and those that are murdering and maiming people. Mayor Nutter has ensured that we've gotten an additional $400,000 for witness protection to go along with the $1 million in the state budget. And that's necessary. But we could do more, of course, if we had more. Almost every homicide in Philadelphia, almost every case in which people are shot at in Philadelphia, there is some form of witness intimidation, where witnesses are being threatened while they wait for the bus or the L or in their community or at school. And many of them come to us and want us to do more, to relocate them or to protect them. And often our hands are tied. And if anyone, we have to ensure that the victims of crime and the witnesses, that they receive justice and that they are protected and that they can come forward and tell their story, so that those that are charged can be punished appropriately. So we have to do all that we can. We're doing all that we can, but we have to do more. In closing, there are other themes and other initiatives that we are going to be working on with Senator Williams and others in Harrisburg. I believe, and the mayor has repeated often, and we've changed some policies as it relates to people when they get arrested with guns on our streets in Philadelphia to ensure that they have high bail, so that individuals, young men in our city, know that if you've got a gun, you go to jail. So we're going to be asking State Senator Williams and others in Harrisburg to help us to have a mandatory sentence for Section 6108 of the Pennsylvania Crimes Code, so that defendants that unlawfully possess guns in the streets of Philadelphia will go to jail. It's not going to be for a long time, but they just need to know. If you have a gun, you don't have a license, you have an illegal gun, you're not going to just get arrested and just go back out on the block the next day. You're going to go to jail. Even if it's for 90 days, you're going to go to jail. And so those are some of the initiatives that we'll be working on in the upcoming session in Harrisburg. But again, I would urge everyone to do all that they can to help us do what we can to change the hearts and the minds of the young men, to do all that they can to ensure that with the money we save, and we're saving a lot of money for the city, that Councilman Johnson, who's here on behalf of City Council, that in Harrisburg, that we reinvest some of the money we are saving into other initiatives, through justice reinvestment, through other initiatives to help us prevent crime, to help us reinvest in the police department, and to help us do all that we can to better serve the victims of crime. Thank you, Senator.